Boy, that Super Bowl was a great game. The Saints had a nice victory. We'll talk about that and more coming up on Incompetent Sports Talk. Welcome to Incompetent Sports Talk along with Mike Raven, Jordan Loperena. I'm Alex Salzma. 31-17, the Saints win the Super Bowl. After 43 years as a franchise, they finally got a Super Bowl. And the Saints took all the chances. I mean, they played like they were the underdogs. They were the underdogs. That fourth down conversions, the onside kick, what a move for that. And I was kind of a neutral fan the whole game. And then once they kicked that onside kick and they got it, I wanted them to win, just because that took a lot of guts to do that. Maybe even a little craziness to do that from Sean Payton. And I just think the storyline for me in this Super Bowl, Drew Brees. Drew Brees wanted to play for the Texas Longhorns, had to go to Purdue. Went to San Diego, kicked out of San Diego for Phillip Rivers. Went to Miami. Nick Saban had to choose between Dante Culpepper, and he had to choose between him. And he went with Culpepper. So then Sean Payton takes a chance with him to the Saints, and then he had that moment with his son on the field. For me, that's the image of the Super Bowl right there. His son with the earphones on because it was so loud, and then having that moment with him. So that's me. That's what I think. Mike, what did you think?
What amazed me about this story is Peyton Manning making the crucial mistake, the Brett Favre-esque interception kind of play, you know, that really cost him the game. Tracy Porter, got to give him all the credit, read the route, made the play, and that was another case where Sean Payton took a huge risk by bringing the blitz, but then they were able to make the play anyway on defense and run it back for the touchdown and win the game. Good note for Iowa, Dallas Clark, 86 yards receiving, most in the Super Bowl for this game. So at least Iowa had one positive note out of this situation.
Yeah, Sean Payton, I mean, just took all the chances that game, truly the underdog, and said, you know what, we're going to embrace this role. Now, I don't think the Colts would have been kicking onside kicks like that. I don't think the Colts would have been going on the first down conversions. So that's why the beauty of football is the underdog will play like they got nothing to lose, and that's exactly what they did, Jordan.
Yeah, it is, and, you know, I really think the Colts kind of got caught at certain points in the game going through the motions, just kind of being satisfied with where they were at in the game, you know, kind of playing for, all right, well, if it's close at the end, we think we can win. And, you know, you took the words right out of my mouth with that onside kick. At that point in the game, I was rooting for the Saints, but I wanted a good game, and if the Colts would have won, I wouldn't have been disappointed. And that onside kick right there, that stadium erupted. Tracy Porter on that pick six, you could see the end zone, all the fans bouncing up and down. You really could tell that there were a lot of people rooting for the Saints inside that stadium. And then, you know, you took the words out of my mouth again with Drew Brees. You know, that was one of my favorite sports pictures that I've seen in a long time, him holding his son up in the air after they win the Super Bowl. You know, not only did the Chargers think Phillip Rivers was better than him, they also thought Eli Manning was better than him. And where were those two yesterday? Well, we know where Eli Manning was thanks to the CBS cameras, but neither of them were on the field. And the Chargers were not in that game. It was Drew Brees. You know, he took a gamble and he hit the jackpot. And that is a pretty young team. They have a lot of things going for them. And that's a team that I think can build off of this. I'm not saying they're going to go win the Super Bowl every year, turn into a huge powerhouse, but that's a team that has a lot of young players that know they can do it now.
And I think a big question with the Saints will be they got 29 players whose contracts expired after this year. So the question is, can they get all those players to come back? Mike?
Well, the interesting thing about this, another point for me, I've never seen a coach in the Super Bowl take as many risks consistently throughout the duration of a game like Sean Payton did. And obviously the payoffs outweighed the negatives, you know, when they went for it on fourth down in goal and didn't get it. But then they kicked the onside kick, which leads to a score. And like I said, bringing that blitz and then still getting the interception. So props to Sean Payton for really putting himself out there, really making some tough calls and keeping the Colts guessing a little bit. You know, he really put pressure on the Colts defense. He's basically just telling the Colts, we've got to can we stop them? We don't know if we can. And you've got to give the Saints a lot of credit for that.
Props to the Saints defense, too. Really stepping up to the table. Not only that pick six, Jonathan Vilma was covering people off the line as well as I've seen a linebacker cover wide receivers like that all season. That play that comes to mind that he made on the goal line, breaking up the pass to Collie. Collie tore apart a Jets defense 2 weeks ago that was red hot and seemed to be unstoppable. And then, the Saints just all around a great defensive game.
Well, see, the interesting thing about it is the Saints gave up 432 total yards, 333 passing, but they made key plays at the right moments, and on on third down, they were able to come up with stops and make plays when they had to. And like I said, taking those risks, trying to throw Peyton Manning off with some different blitz packages, which is very hard to do considering how well Peyton Manning reads defenses. So again, Sean Payton, that coaching staff, I think they deserve a lot of credit for having their players prepared to make plays at the right times.
And I love that early call on 4th and goal, too. Go for it. You don't get it in. Colts take over with the end zone, their own end zone behind them. That's great play calling. High risk, high reward.
Yeah, and Drew Brees said on ESPN today they've been practicing that onside kick for 2 weeks. And Sean Payton told them before the game, I don't know when we're going to use it, but we will use it once this game. And I thought that was really interesting going into the game, knowing sometime we're going to kick an onside kick. So I thought I was pretty intrigued by that. And I also heard Sean Payton say that, hey, I slept with the Super Bowl trophy last night. He actually went to bed with the Super Bowl trophy. So, hey, you won the Super Bowl, do whatever you want, Sean Payton. So just a great win for the Saints. And now we're going to transition into college basketball. And in college basketball last week, a lot of big wins for some of the teams that needed them. And for me, Wisconsin was already a team that was going to the NCAA tournament. But last week, I think they had the biggest week out of any team in college basketball. Why? Because they dominated the entire state of Michigan. They beat Michigan State 67-49 at the Kohl Center. And then last Saturday, in what some people thought might be a trap game at Chrysler Arena, they dominated Michigan in a sold-out Chrysler Arena, 62-44. Huge wins for Wisconsin. Now they're second place in the Big Ten, and now they got a great shot with Michigan State losing like they did and then losing again at Illinois. They got a shot to even maybe win the whole thing when it's all said and done. And then I think maybe a couple other teams I'll throw out there, Texas A&M with a big win at Missouri and then coming back home and beating Baylor. A lot of people thought Baylor would win that game, being 24th in the nation. They took care of business there. I also think Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was one of those teams that had a really good out-of-conference schedule, but they're 500 in the ACC. They co-win last week. They beat UNC, which was a team they needed to beat since UNC is kind of reeling down the stretch. And then Clemson's a team that they needed to beat too. Clemson, a streaky team. They won both those games, both of them at Va-Tech. So those, I think, are the biggest teams of the week. What do you guys think?
I definitely have to agree with you on the Wisconsin Badgers. They just really took care of business the entire week, and you talk about those wins against Michigan and Michigan State, dominating wins. They just looked very good, and they controlled those games. You had a feeling the entire time that Wisconsin was not going to give up that lead. And so, props to them. They've just really stepped it up. I didn't think they were going to be – I figured they'd be good just because when you got Bo Ryan, your team's going to be competitive. But I did not think they were going to be this good. So they really proved something last week.
I'm going to stick with the Big Ten theme. I think Illinois deserves a lot of credit. I mean, Illinois, they haven't necessarily beaten the best teams in the conference. I mean, they did just beat Michigan State. But they're playing consistent. They're now 16-8 overall and 8-3 in the conference. So they're right in the thick of things. The way they started the season, people were unsure about where they were going to go, but I think you've seen players like DJ Richardson and Bill Cole step up and help supplement Demetri McCamey and Tisdale, and they've really started to come together as a team. And then the other one, this is more of a long range over the last few weeks, but I think Ohio State really needs to get some credit, winning 7 of their last 8 games. Their only loss is at West Virginia, who's clearly a good basketball team, a top 15 basketball team, so you can't really that's not a bad loss. And they were competitive, probably should have won the game, but weren't able to hold out in the end. But Ohio State, Evan Turner's really taken over. And I'll say it now, I really think he's the best player in college basketball. And Ohio State is not a team that you want to see in the tournament or in the Big Ten tournament because they present so many matchup problems for all the other Big Ten teams.
Yeah, Evan Turner just dominated Iowa. I mean,
he's dominating
career high,
I know, career high against Iowa. and really played a great game. So, yeah, I agree with all of you with your picks there.